Hello guys, it's Unblessed Data with another review. This time we have Arrow Season 2, Episode 1, City of Heroes. Arrow has returned. The king of superhero TV shows has returned. None of this Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. garbage. That show is complete garbage. I hate it. This show is where it's at. Marvel may be dominating the movie screen, but DC's dominating the small screen. I'm telling you, this show is awesome. I loved every minute of Season 1, and it came back strong, and Arrow is back, and it's amazing. So let's get right into the episode. I thought it was great. And before I do, I just want to let you guys know it will contain spoilers, so if you do not want to know what happened, go watch the episode and come back. So right off the bat, we see Oliver. He's running through all these woods. He's jumping everywhere. And we cut this little scene with Felicity and Dingle. They're in a plane over this, over this place. And they're like, okay, where are they? Why are they in a plane? They jump out with parachutes and they land on this island. And this island on the shore where they landed has this Deathstroke's mask on the peg there. We've seen that from Season 1. This is the island where Oliver was stranded on for 5 years. And Oliver has gone back to the island after the Glades blew up in the season finale of Season 1. And he's like, they find him, and he's like, you shouldn't have come here. They're like, yeah, but we spent weeks tracking you down. We finally found you. And Oliver, it's really awesome how the character progression has gone, because now Oliver's like, this list, my hit list kind of thing, crossing the names off. It's a whole city. It was a fool's quest. I shouldn't have done it. And don't ask me to put on the hood again. I failed the city. And they say, you should come back because your family needs you. The company is being taken over. Your mom's in jail. We need you back there. So Oliver's really trying to decide what he's gonna do. If he's gonna stay there. If he's gonna go back to the city. He doesn't know. So now we go back to the almighty flashback. I love the flashbacks in this episode. These ones weren't very good. It kind of was leading nowhere. It did tie in with the episode, which is usually what it does. But it was still cool just to see the return, basically, of the flashbacks. So we see Slade and Oliver, and they're training. Then Shadow comes in, and she brought all this food. And so then we find out that Oliver's kind of dating Shadow now, which is Yalfe's daughter. And then they find that these men are in the woods near them with this tracker they got from the rubble of fires, all his equipment and stuff. They have this tracker, and they find men there. That's the end of that little flashback. Now back to the present. Oliver returns to Starling City, and it's all run down, especially with the Glades and everything. Everything's rubble. Everyone's kind of in panic and everything. We found out that Thea and Roy are still together, and Roy's still fighting crime. Come on, he's Red Arrow. I want him to become Red Arrow as soon as possible. Now, who's going to be his mentor? It might be, the vigilante himself, Oliver, but this episode gives us a clue. It might be someone else, which is pretty awesome, and we'll get to that in a minute. So Oliver goes and sees Thea and discovers that he was in Europe this whole time, which is, wow, whatever. And Thea's now the owner of the club since Oliver was gone, so she's running everything, doing all that stuff. So it's kind of cool to see that she's getting a little more action in the show, I guess. She has more of a role. So now we go to a little clip with the mayor, and the mayor's at this ball. He's at a fundraiser thing, so, all the people in nice suits and dresses and all this. And all of a sudden, he starts giving a speech. Then you hear, "You have failed this city, Mr. Mayor." It's what? Oliver's in the Arrow suit already? And, okay, wait, before I go any further, I call Oliver Arrow when he's in the costume. I know they don't call him Arrow in the show, but Arrow is better than the Hood, and it's better than the Vigilante, so I'm calling him an Arrow. And I don't care what you think. So, Arrow. So, it's we think it's Arrow's already back, Oliver's already in the suit, but it's not. The mayor's shot right on spot, and a bunch of hooded men with guns come in, and they're calling themselves the Hoods. So they actually point a gun to Laurel's head. Laurel's there in this little ball, but then they leave. They shoot the mayor. That's what they were there for. They're gone. So now Detective Lance shows up, which is Laurel's dad, and he gets all this disrespect from other detectives. He's just been promoted down, and now he's just a normal, just deadbeat cop. Now he's not even a detective, which is kind of sad for him, but whatever. So then Laurel and Oliver talk about Tommy and how Laurel feels she betrayed Tommy, but now this is really cool because now it kind of connects with Oliver saying, well, I feel like I betrayed you with your sister, and now they have that in common, saying, I would do anything to go back and change it. Same with Laurel. Kind of makes a better connection with them. And Laurel did not have a huge part in this episode at all. I'm sure she's going to have more of a part later. even later in the season, but kind of weak with her right now, but whatever. So now, then we go to this TV, and it's the local news. They're talking about how Oliver's returned. They're not talking about how the mayor was shot by these hooded guys. And the hooded guys are watching this. So they're like, no, you know what? We deserve the attention. And, Oliver and his mom were the reason the Glades, exploded. So we're going to take revenge out against their family. So that was, a big thing. Now we go to Thea. And Thea did have a pretty big part in this episode in dealing with Oliver's mother and her mother. She's in jail, and she doesn't want to visit her because she feels like, she killed all these people. I'm not going to go at all. And Roy kind of tries to change her mind, like, come on, you got to go with your mom. But we'll see what happens with that. So now Oliver goes to a press conference that's talking about the future of his company because, well, he hasn't been there for a while, and it's kind of like going in the toilet. So we meet this new woman that is probably going to be a big character. Her name's Isabel. And the actor that plays Isabel, her name's on the tip of my tongue, I don't remember, but she played the, woman Terminator in Terminator Salvation. Really good actor. So she's playing this part of Isabel. And basically, Isabel owns 45% of the company, and so does Oliver. Now, 10% is going to go on the market to be purchased, and she wants to buy it, so she wants control of the whole company. Oliver's still not really sure what to do. So then all of a sudden, the hoods arrive, and they start shooting up the place, saying, you failed the city, Oliver. Really crazy to see that, switched on Oliver. Now they're saying it to him. He was the one normally dishing it out. Kind of cool. But they start shooting out the place, and Oliver's scrambling around. Dingle's returning fire. Oliver grabs Felicity and uses, the blinds, the rope that you, put the blinds up and down. He just breaks out of the window with that and slams out and just crashes through the window below, which was awesome. So that whole thing went by, and it was just crazy, smashing through the windows, all this action. This is why I love Arrow. So after that, Dingle and Felicity are kind of trying to convince Oliver, okay, I think you need to become the Hood again, because, well, look, all these people just went up and tried to kill you, and you didn't even return anything, you didn't try to stop them at all. Is that because you really don't want to become the Hood? And he's saying, well, you know what, I didn't come back to the city to be the Hood, I'm just trying to help my family. And they're like, okay, well, why? Why don't you just do it? And they're like, well, you know what? This is what Oliver says. He's like, you haven't considered the body count. I've killed so many people, and I don't want to do that anymore. So when did that matter to you? That's basically what they're saying to him. And he's like, well, since Tommy died, and he's saying it's gonna dishonor his memory if I kill people because he died because of me. Basically, that's what he's saying. So that's kind of interesting to see now the focus have shifted that he's not gonna kill anyone anymore. And I think that puts a cool twist on it and something different than we've seen. And it's kind of giving me a Justice League vibe because obviously if Green Arrow's in the Justice League, he's not going to kill anyone. So that was kind of cool. So now we go to another flashback, and it's Slade and Oliver, and they're tracking down the men that were on the tracker that they had. So they're looking around for them, and we find out that Oliver is learning Chinese from Shadow, which is kind of cool. So that's how he developed that. We've seen him talk Chinese before in the previous episode. But then all of a sudden Shadow disappears, and they don't know where she is. And that's the end of that flashback. Really short flashbacks this episode, but we'll see how it goes throughout this whole season. So Oliver visits his mom in jail, and he's just kind of talking to her, saying I don't really know what to do with the business and everything. But she's like, this is a family business, and you should rely on family. And he's like, well, who do I call? And it ends like that. It's kind of cool. Okay, who is this? It's kind of like a guessing game. And if you think about it, you'll figure it out. But I'll reveal it later. So then the Hoods arrive at Oliver's club, and they're looking for Oliver. And of course Roy is there, so he tackles one of them, being the good doer that he is, and he grabs a gun. But one of the Hoods grab Thea and put the gun to her head, and they take Thea and run away because they're like, okay, well, we can't have Oliver, we're gonna have Thea, his sister. They run away. So Oliver goes downstairs after he arrives at his club, what happened. Roy tells him. He goes downstairs, and Felicity made some huge improvements on their little Arrow base, and the costume is displayed in a nice clear display, kind of like Batman does in his Batcave, which is kind of cool. And he's like, you know what, let's find them. And so then he's basically dedicated, he's gonna be the Hood now. What else can I do? My sister's gone, I have to become the Hood again. So one of the guys' wife died in the Glades. They find this out about one of the Hood guys, and so that's something they can work off of. Okay, they all have a hatred for that. What happened? The Glades blew up. that's what their motive is. That's why they hate Oliver. So now, and we get revealed a new bow also. Oliver has this new bow, and it's really cool, and it's just awesome. Like, I just love how he just picked it up, and it was just so epic. Like, just awesome. You have to see it for yourself. There'll be pictures in here. Then we go back to another flashback, and Slade and Oliver are springing on Shadow. They see her, like, they're looking through the bushes, and the men are kind of, like, interrogating her. And Oliver just rushes in and tackles one of the guys and just punches the guy to, like, a bloody pulp, to the point where he basically killed him. And that's where it ties into the episode about, like, killing. Like, should he or not? And this is kind of, like, a memory of him, like, I killed before, like, kind of like that. So, now the Hoods are talking about what they're going to do with Thea. They're alone with Thea, and, Thea's like, this is Malcolm Merlin's fault. You shouldn't blame it on my mom. Then, all of a sudden, Oliver shows up as Arrow, and he starts shooting up the place. Really cool fight scene. He's fighting them off. There's only 4 of these guys, so he can do it. Now, he did something that I had a problem with in the other season, which I think they fixed, is that if there's a bunch of guns against, like, Green Arrow, like, wouldn't one of the bolts hit him? But this is what they did. He picked them off one by one by shooting their guns out first. So it's, like, really giving him the advantage, and it makes a lot more sense, in my opinion. So props to them that they did that, because that's kind of like a complaint I had last season, and they fixed it. So good job. So now Oliver faces off against the last Hood guy, and basically he's leaning off an edge, and he shoots him right in the chest. He falls off the edge, and Oliver grabs his arm, obviously his arrow, and pulls him back up, like, kind of like agreeing that he wasn't going to kill anyone, and he didn't. So then Oliver, he ties up all the guys, like, on like a fence, and they're waiting there for the not detective anymore, Mr. Lance, to come in his police officer outfit now. And he basically says, I'm not going to kill anymore, and he left them there to arrest. So there's his change there. And then we go a little scene, like a touching scene of Laurel and Oliver at Tommy's grave, and they're talking about, like, everything, and just resolving some things, like, Laurel says, like, it was kind of a mistake to go to be with you while Tommy's there, and just wrapping things up from last season, nothing too important. So then Thea visits her mom, and they kind of make up, and they hug. Another, like, a resolve there. And then, a really cool part that happened, Oliver's in another meeting with this Isabel character and all that, and she's like, okay, right when the 10% goes on for buying, I'm going to buy it right away, and the company's basically going to be mine. But Walter says, no, this is what's going to go down, and Walter shows up, Oliver's, like, stepdad kind of guy, and that was cool to see him. I completely forgot about him, so it was kind of cool just to see him show up. And he bought the remaining shares, so now they're 50-50 partners. So Oliver and Isabel, they're going to have, like, conflicts in the future, which is kind of cool. Now, the last flashback of the episode, Slade picks up a radio that one of the men had, and he's like, we're not alone, but where did they come from? And it pans out, and there's a boat, like this huge boat in the water there, and obviously they're going to be looking for the men, so what's going to happen? Who knows? Obviously they're going to get off the boat, though. Now, this is probably the coolest part of the whole episode. Roy is, like, walking down the street, and he's, like, witnesses a mugging, so he jumps in and he saves the girl. He starts fighting, but he gets kind of overwhelmed because there's a bunch of guys. This woman jumps out from behind and just beats up these people, like, no problem, and she's wearing a costume and everything, and it's Black Canary. She doesn't obviously say that it's, like, she doesn't say I'm Black Canary, but you can tell it's Black Canary, which is awesome. We got another superhero that's in this show, which is crazy, and maybe that's where Roy's going to be, like, mentored by. Maybe he's going to be mentored by Black Canary, which would be awesome, kind of like Young Justice. So that's really cool that we've seen Black Canary. Costume's a little bit cheesy, like, but I'm sure they'll work on it. Same with Huntress, at the beginning it was kind of cheesy, and then she changed and made it, like, an awesome costume. So that's probably what's going to happen. Really awesome to see Black Canary. And so then we go to a last scene with Oliver, Felicity, and Dingle in their little Arrow base. And he's saying, I want to be, like, the man that Tommy wants me to be. Like, I want to honor his memory and everything. He's like, it's a brand new start, and I don't want to be called the Hood anymore. And they're like, okay, what do you want to be called? And Oliver's holding a green arrow, and he just looks at the green arrow, and it zooms in to the green arrow, and that's how the episode ends. So obviously they're going to be calling him Green Arrow now, which is cool. I don't have to call him Arrow anymore, and you guys don't have to get angry at me anymore, which is awesome. But overall, man, this episode was amazing. Just great overall. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better episode. And, like, compare this to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and this just blows it out of the water. So I'm just gonna clap for him. That is just great. I would recommend that you watch a show if you're a fan of DC, especially if you're a fan of Green Arrow. This is just a great show. So that's my thoughts. What are your guys' thoughts? Leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching.